They always told us that family loyalty meant staying silent no matter what happened behind closed doors. But I've learned the hard way that true love doesn't hide the truth, it faces it. For years, the world has watched Anna stand by a marriage that was built on a foundation of secrets and betrayal. Now, as we step into 2026, the rumors of her move to Texas aren't just whispers anymore. They are the sound of a mother finally deciding what her children's future is worth. I'm Jill Duggar Dillard. I know exactly what it feels like to realize that the umbrella of protection you were promised was actually a cage. Today, I'm taking you inside the story of Anna's move, the truth behind those legal filings, why our family will never be the same. This isn't just a headline, it's the cost of freedom. Are you ready to hear the story they never wanted you to know? For a long time, the public only saw the version of us that my father wanted them to see, the perfect family. We were the faces of a movement that preached perfection, but behind the scenes, we were just people trying to survive a system built on control. Now, as we step into 2026, those walls are finally coming down as news breaks of Anna potentially moving her 7 children out of the compound. We have to ask, what was the final straw? Was it Josh's release date being pushed to October 2032? Or was it the realization that staying loyal was costing her children their chance at a normal life? I've lived in that tension, and today we're going to look at the moment the silence finally broke. This isn't just about a change of address, it's about a change of soul. But to understand Anna, you have to understand the IBLP teachings that raised us. We were taught from birth that a husband's authority is absolute and that his umbrella of protection was the only way to be safe from the world. We were told to not stir up contention, which really meant don't complain about the abuse. Anna was brought into our family as the perfect student of these rules, fully and permanently committed to her marriage. But the problem with those rules is that they only work if everyone is honest. When the man you're told to submit to is leading a double life, the system doesn't protect you. It traps you. I remember sitting in those seminars, hearing that a husband's sins were often a reflection of a wife's lack of submission. Can you imagine the weight that puts on a woman? I remember Anna and Josh's wedding day back in 2008. It was a symbol of hope for our community, but now it feels like a warning. The vows she took weren't just about love. They were about a covenant that the IBLP says can never be broken, even for gross betrayal or neglect. For 15 years, she has been a prisoner to those vows. We're going to look at how my family used those very promises to keep her living in a warehouse on the property, and why she is finally beginning to question if that's truly what God wants for her. I've struggled with this myself, feeling like a failure because I dared to question my father or set boundaries. Anna is living in that vow trap longer than anyone, and it takes an incredible amount of strength to realize that being a virtuous woman doesn't mean being a doormat. Texas isn't just a state to Anna. It's where her husband is serving 151 months in federal prison. The reality of visiting Josh at FCI Seagoville is something the cameras never showed. It's long, lonely drives from Arkansas with 7 kids in the car. It's the heartbreak of seeing your husband behind bars and then having to go home to his parents' house. Reports say Josh actually did not want her to move to Texas because he was afraid she'd leave him if she wasn't under his father's watch. Think about that. A man in prison trying to control his wife's zip code while facing an extended release date of October 2, 2032. We discuss the physical and emotional toll of those visits and why moving to Texas might be the only way for Anna to finally see him for who he truly is without the Duggar family filter. Money has always been a tool for control in our family. I know that better than most. In early 2025, my father bought $1 million home in Fayetteville. On paper, it looked like a generous gift for a daughter-in-law in need, but in our family, gifts are often just new sets of golden handcuffs. If she's in a house he owns, she has to play by his rules and stay within his proximity. But sightings in early 2026 suggest Anna didn't stay in that house for long. We're looking at the financial fallout between Anna and Jim Bob and why she might have decided that a humble life in Texas was worth more than a mansion in Arkansas under his thumb. Did Anna finally refuse the price of my father's protection to find her own independence? The rumors didn't just start out of thin air. In early 2026, sightings of Anna in Texas began to surface, and they weren't just at the prison. People started seeing her at local grocery stores and parks in the Seagoville area, often with several of her children in tow. But what really caught everyone's attention was the sight of a moving truck parked outside a modest rental home, a home that was definitely not a Duggar-owned property. For a long time, the family line was that Anna was just visiting or staying with family friends. But you don't unload several suitcases and children's toys into a house just for a weekend trip. Seeing those images reminded me so much of when Derek and I first started distancing ourselves. There's this mixture of terror and adrenaline when you realize you're finally doing it. You're stepping off the map they drew for you. In this segment, we're looking at the timeline of those sightings and what they revealed about Anna's state of mind. She looked tired, yes, but there was a new look in her eyes, a look of someone who had stopped waiting for permission to live her life. One of the hardest parts about leaving the compound isn't the physical move. It's the silence from the people you love. I know exactly how that feels. But with Anna's move to Texas, something interesting started to happen among the siblings. While the official family stance remained quiet, some of us were reaching out behind the scenes. I've always tried to keep a door open for Anna, even when we didn't agree on how she handled things with Josh. She is still the mother of my nieces and nephews. Duggar and I have both spoken about how we want our home to be a safe place for any of our siblings who need it. Reports have suggested that Duggar's move to California and her book Becoming Free Indeed actually gave Anna a lot to think about regarding her own independence. In this segment, we discuss the underground support network that has formed. There is a new generation of Duggars who are choosing sisterhood over the strict rules of the past. that support might be exactly what gave Anna the courage to finally cross the state line. When Josh's sentence was first handed down, it felt like an eternity. But when the news broke that his release date had been extended to October 2032, after an administrative incident, it felt like the air was sucked out of the room for everyone involved. For Anna, that date was a brutal reality check. 2032 meant she would spend almost her entire 30s alone. It meant her oldest children would be adults before their father ever walked through a front door. That extension changed the math. You can hold your breath for a few years, but you can't hold it for a decade. I think that was the moment the stay and pray strategy started to fail. If your husband isn't coming home for 7 more years, you have to decide what kind of home you're going to have in the meantime. In this segment, we're going to talk about the psychological impact of that sentencing extension. It forced Anna to look at the big house and realize that she couldn't spend another 7 years living in a warehouse, waiting for a man who wasn't there. Something most people don't realize is that Anna has been working toward her own financial independence for a while now. She started a dog breeding business called Golden Grove Pups. In our family, women were rarely encouraged to have their own income, but this was something she could do while staying at home with the kids. What started as a small project became her lifeline. Having your own money is the first step toward having your own voice. When I had to fight my father for the money I earned on the show, I realized just how much he used finances to keep us compliant. For Anna, those puppies weren't just pets, they were her exit fund. In this segment, we look at how Anna used her business to quietly build the resources she needed to move to Texas without having to ask for a check from the Duggar family office. It's a side of her people rarely see, the savvy, determined woman who was planning for a future she could finally control, to understand why Texas felt like freedom. You have to understand what the warehouse was really like. After Josh's arrest and subsequent conviction, Anna and the kids moved into a converted warehouse on my parents' property. It was meant to be temporary, but it became her world for years. Imagine living in a space where you are always under surveillance, not by cameras, but by the expectations of your in-laws. She was living in a space where she didn't own the walls. She didn't own the land, and she certainly didn't own her schedule. Every move she made was scrutinized by the family to make sure she was still loyal. It was a gilded cage, except it wasn't even very gilded. In this segment, we describe the daily reality of life on the compound for Anna, the lack of privacy, the constant pressure to perform for the family brand, and the moment she realized that the only way to be a mother to her children was to take them away from that environment. Texas wasn't just a destination, it was her first real home. Watching Anna's current struggle is like looking into a rearview mirror of my own life in 2017 when Derek and I finally walked away from the show and the compound. It wasn't a sudden move. It was a long, painful realization that we were being silenced and controlled. I see that same awakening in Anna now. as she realizes that the family system won't truly protect her. People often ask why I didn't leave sooner, and the answer is simple fear and obligation ingrained from childhood. You're taught that the world outside is dangerous and that your family is the only safety you have. When I wrote Counting the Cost, I wanted to show that the cost isn't just financial, it's the loss of relationships and the reputation you once had. Anna is facing that exact cost right now. By moving toward Texas, she is essentially telling my father that his proximity is no longer her priority. It's a terrifying step, but as I've learned, I would rather have my freedom than be a prisoner in a mansion. The word divorce is a heavy one in our family. It's practically a forbidden word. But by early 2026, the whispers about Anna debating a legal separation from Josh have become impossible to ignore. For years, Anna's public bio read happily married, even after Josh's conviction. But sources close to her are now saying she has at least thought about a legal separation. The rumors suggest she isn't just looking for a new house, she's looking for a legal way to breathe. However, in the IBLP, a legal separation is often seen as a compromise to avoid the shame of a full divorce. I've watched from a distance as she battles between her wedding vows and her children's safety. In this segment, we analyze the reports of her internal debate and why the move to Texas might be her way of testing if she can truly survive on her own before she finally pulls the plug on a marriage that has been littered with betrayal, loved with betrayal and line of marriage. If there's one thing about my father, it's that he uses money to maintain the umbrella of protection. When he bought that $1 million house in Arkansas for Anna in April 2025, it wasn't just about shelter. It was about geography. If Anna is in Arkansas, she is minutes away from his front door and his is constant influence. Josh actually echoed this sentiment from prison, reportedly telling his father that he didn't want Anna moving away because she would be too disconnected. In our family, disconnected often means uncontrolled. My father used money from his real estate deal with Walmart to fund that property, trying to keep his daughter-in-law close. But Anna's move to Texas proves that even $1 million home isn't enough to buy peace. She is walking away from that luxury to find a state where my father's reach is significantly shorter. The real heart of this story isn't Anna or Josh. It's the 7 children. Mackenzie is now a teenager, and she's seeing the world with much clearer eyes than we ever did at that age. One of the most heartbreaking parts of Josh's sentencing is the long years he will miss before his release in 2032. Anna is raising them alone in the shadow of their father's crimes. Moving them to Texas is a massive disruption, but it might be the only way to give them a childhood that isn't defined by the big house compound. I think about my nieces and nephews every day. Are they okay? Are they getting the help they need? In this segment, we discuss the emotional toll this move has had on the kids and why Anna's choice to prioritize their privacy in Texas over their celebrity status in Arkansas is the most motherly thing she has ever done. It's no secret that Jinger and I have taken the most public, again, Jinger, have taken the most public stands, our upbringing. When Duggar released Becoming Free Indeed, it wasn't just a book for the fans. It was a message to our siblings that you can find a different way to live your faith. Reports have suggested that Anna was intrigued but terrified by Duggar's journey. Duggar showed that you could move far away and still be a good person without being a good Duggar. I believe that seeing Duggar thrive in California and seeing me build a happy life despite the rift gave Anna the blueprint she needed. She saw that the world didn't end when we left the compound. In this segment, we explore the sister in law effect, how the courage of the women who left before her finally created a crack in the wall Anna had built around herself. In a family where every move is monitored, you learn to communicate in the quiet spaces throughout 2025 and into 2026. And what happened in my life and being exposed, there have been whispers that Duggar and I haven't just been watching from the sidelines. We've been reaching out in our own way. I've made it clear that even though I need to protect my own family's peace, my heart is always open to Anna. There are rumors of letters and private messages sent between the sisters offering a bridge out of the compound. These weren't messages of judgment, but rather of reassurance. You have a place to go, and you are not failing God by protecting your children. For someone like Anna, who was raised to believe her father in law was her ultimate authority, hearing from the other side is vital. In this segment, we discuss the power of those private connections and how a simple "I'm here for you" can be the spark that helps someone finally pack their bags for a new life. Moving to Texas or anywhere away from the Tonahitchee Town compound isn't just about geography. It's about the basic human need for privacy. At the big house area in Arkansas, Anna was living in a glass house, a constant reminder of a scandal she didn't choose. Every time she stepped outside, she was a target for paparazzi and public judgment. Texas offers her something Arkansas never could, the chance to be anonymous. By choosing a life away from the $1 million house my father bought, she is choosing to let her kids grow up without being the Duggar kids every time they go to the park. I've felt that same desperation to protect my boys from the cameras. In this segment, we talk about the privacy measures Anna has taken and why her decision to prioritize her children's peace of mind over the family image is the most powerful move she has ever made. There's a massive price to pay for freedom. In my book, Counting the Cost, I talked about how standing up for yourself can feel like an act of betrayal against everything you were taught. For Anna, the cost of this move and a potential legal separation is the loss of her entire known world. She risks being shunned by the very community that promised to support her as long as she stayed quiet. She is losing the financial safety net of the Duggar name and the social standing of the loyal wife. But she is gaining her own soul. We explore the heavy emotional weight Anna is carrying, the sleepless nights, the fear of the unknown, and the realization that the people who promised to protect her were often the ones keeping her trapped. It's a high price, but as I've learned, the peace of mind you find when you finally stop lying for others is worth every sacrifice. If I could speak directly to Anna right now, I would tell her It's okay to be afraid, but you don't have to be alone anymore. And what happened? My light's being exposed. I know the voices in your head are telling you that you're failing your family. Protecting your children from a toxic environment is the greatest success a mother can have. I want her to know that there is a whole world out here that is ready to support her for who she is, just as Josh's wife. You don't have to keep carrying the weight of a man's sins just because you signed a marriage license 15 years ago. In this segment, I share my personal hopes for her that she continues to grow her business, Golden Grove Pups, and that she finds is the same kind of supportive, honest community that Derek and I found. You are brave, Anna. Your story isn't over yet. As we close this story in early 2026, the Duggar brand is in a place it has never been before. With the oldest daughter, Jana, moved to Nebraska, and Anna, once the symbol of unwavering loyalty, rumored to be making her own way in Texas. The compound is getting quieter. The perfect family image has been replaced by the messy, honest reality of a family in transition. What happens when the loyal wife finally leaves? It forces everyone left behind to look in the mirror. My hope for my family isn't for another TV show. It's for actual reconciliation based on truth, not control. Anna's move is a signal that the era of silence is ending. Thank you for listening to this journey. Whether you've followed us for years or are just joining now, I hope you see that even in the deepest shadows, there is always a path toward the light. My name is Jill Duggar Dillard, and this is the cost of our freedom.